Thank you, Jimmy. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see people in the audience. We're going to, once again, we tried to do an invitation into our physical space a couple of months ago, and it was a little bit early. So we'll do a relaunch, but we're always happy to see you here when you're here. So it's a great day at the center. I want to do a little announcement before I get into Thoughts to Live By. We're going to have coming up a week from Wednesday a new spirit group for men. It's a men's rap group. Solomon Wells, who's got multiple degrees, is going to be facilitating. It's a 12-step interpretation, and it would be really helpful for anyone that has any type of or has had any type of what we'll call addiction. It doesn't necessarily mean a drug. It could be like an issue related to people or problems of different kinds. We'll have a flyer out about that this week. It will last for 12 weeks, and it will begin a week from Wednesday. It's called a men's rap, and this would be a place where people can share their experience and their strength and their hope. And Solomon's been presenting these types of groups for many years. I may be helping him because I have a similar background, but it'll be his presentation. Also, on Tuesdays in October, I have a friend whose ministry is really good. We're thinking of presenting Spiritual Roots, and that would happen in October, and that would be for Tuesday nights for another 10 weeks. We're trying to work out price points that would make it affordable for just about everyone and see what scholarships we can provide for people who maybe can't afford it. So we're working on that. We'll announce that one in another week. But Solomon's men's rap, spiritual solutions to everyday problems. So we've got lots of names for it. But put that on your calendar for any of the guys. And as always, we do our Louise, Hey, You Can Heal Your Life presentation every Thursday. That's the one that seems to attract everybody from everywhere, all over the globe. So we're glad to have you. We've got a lot of things going on for the fall, and so stay tuned, and we'll keep you apprised of dates and times. So today, Thoughts to Live By. This is a talk that's largely Ernest Holmes, and a lot of it's from Dr. Chang. And let's get on with it. So we want to welcome you. If this is your first time here. We are at 204 West 84th Street, New York, New York. In case any of you in the extended audience want to support us, you can always send a check, or as Jimmy said, there's opportunities on our website and in our chats for donations. We charge for very little here. We, in faith, know that we will be supplied and supported. And in most cases, in every case, really, it works out that way. So we want to welcome you back into the center to a regular world. We're declaring this whole, I'll say, COVID era is in the past, and we're wanting to go further and higher than we ever have before. Today I want to talk about the science of mind and give you an informal way of approaching it. One that doesn't involve a lot of theology or technicalities or obscure language to make it understandable for just about everybody. One of the things with science of mind when I was younger is I came in and I didn't understand the language. I felt they were speaking a different something. And the thing is, thank God Louise Hay came along, because she said it's all very simple, and it really is. And if you ever want to take a deeper dive and read some of the books that some of us have read, because we're like into it really, you can, because there's lots of them, right? But it doesn't have to be complicated. And I wouldn't want anybody running away because they think, oh, this is too difficult to understand. It's simply the law, the way it works. And so let me present it today and make it a little, I won't say make it, just make it more understandable. So I want to say it in a way that will allow a beginner or somebody, just think of this as like a fall training. So I want you to see how it is, how easy it is for you to move into a little spiritual discipline that's designed for your success. And so you'll have a more fulfilled life. So this is an introduction, and it's based upon, again, Ernest Holmes and Dr. Chang and a little bit of Louise Hay. I know the textbook has terms and things, again, that seem difficult, and I'm going to explain them for you today. And we're going to talk about 6 areas. One will deal with a source, which we talk about as an omnipresence, something that's everywhere, right? And how it relates and how you are in relationship to it. The second point will deal with you as an individual in this relationship with this thing. The third is the thought and the feeling. Thoughts and feelings are the keys to our creative experience of this power that we have. The fourth is our attitude as it relates to the consciousness of expectancy. The fifth is changing our negative habitual thoughts and from fear to faith. And the last is, we have a different form of prayer, prayer in action. Dr. Chang said our siblings, so we can see what he has to say about that. So let's talk about the idea of omnipresence and how it relates to us. Dr. Holmes says spirituality is natural goodness. And he said God is not a person. It's a presence, and this presence is personified in each of us. Spirituality, he said, is not a thing. It's an atmosphere of presence, of goodness, and truth, and beauty. So let's talk about the presence of this energy. And what does that look like? Or more than what does it look like, a better question is what does it feel like? It's a sense of moving into that peace and that sense of support that we have, not just from people, but from the entire universe, the entire cosmos. You're being supported by a universe that is unimaginably vast, and as it is intelligent and as it is loving. So once you begin to think in that way and contemplate in that way, you'll begin to find that all the worries and the trials and tribulations that you have, these things start to just slip away. And you feel more relaxed and at home in the world. All of life is evolving along. I say every week, it's evoluting. You are not the same person you were even last week. Now, you don't think of it that way. But you're certainly not the same person you were 5 years ago. You know, you've grown and you've evolved, and you will continue to do. All of us are. So let's take in his talk about goodness. Goodness is really what you participate in when you're doing kindly things for yourself, for people, when you're giving of yourself and you're really not expecting anything back. Goodness is when you make other people's lives better and when you make your own life better. And so goodness and spirituality are really the same thing. If you're good, even if you don't think that you're religious, you are really experiencing goodness and spirituality because they're really the same thing. They're really one thing. So it's a feeling. You can think of it as a feeling thing. And it gives you a sense of being in the flow of life when you are participating in good. I mean, you know when you're doing good things. It feels good to feel good and to give. My teachers used to say life loves a giver. Wherever you're giving, generally you'll notice you're feeling good. When we talk about truth, most of us look around to find a word or a sentence and say this is true or this isn't true. And then we find that we spend our time arguing with each other about what is true, what is right, and what is wrong. We form opinions and we get stuck and we get lost. You hear me talking about us as truth students because that's what they used to tell me probably 40 years ago. They said, well, you're a truth student, Greg. And I wasn't sure what they meant. So let me suggest that truth is a clarity about who you are. When you take our classes or you just hang with us for a while, you're going to start to understand that you're going to start to become clear about who you are in truth. And you're going to be you're going to become less interested in, say, trivial things, and you're really not going to be terribly interested in who's right and who's wrong. I know some of you are developing a clarity about your life and where you're going. You haven't got time for the pain or the nonsense that you've engaged in before. I distinctly remember when I was younger always being involved in having to be right about this or that. And, it gets to a point where you don't have time for that. You don't want to argue with everybody. You could be all day long if you wanted to. One of my teachers along the way gave me a great line. I could see peace instead of this. And of course you can if you're determined to live your life from a connected place. Some of you are learning to love yourself more and more. That's what we do every Thursday night in the Louise classes. And you're able to sit still now. And you're able to sit still in that undifferentiated awareness of spirit and just allow yourself to feel that. You come to know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And that comes more from centering yourself in this essence. And it's not about reacting to everything. And when you begin to see yourself aligned with the flow, when you begin to see yourself aligned with the flow and the way of life, then you know that you have stumbled upon what is truth, what is beauty. That's another thing that Ernest Holmes mentioned. And when we think of beauty, we must understand that Source, or God's way of announcing itself, is by experiencing the world. And the world is filled with grandeur and the beauty of the Creator. And what happens is that we become habituated to what we see. And after a while, we'll say, oh yes, I've seen all this before. And Mr. Cheng was saying that's not the way to come to beauty. The way to come to beauty, even if it's something you've viewed for many, many times before. I mean, you walk through your day and you don't experience beauty, you don't see beauty because your eyes are somewhat closed. He said, slow down and stop and really take a look. And, because beauty is here. It's like the kingdom of God is here. But we don't see the beauty, we don't see the kingdom. So we want to slow down, and then you say, wow. And you can begin to experience the awe and the wonder that's here if you bring the attitude of awe and wonder with you. What the Buddhists will always call, if you bring the beginner's mind into the moment. I could see peace instead of this. I could see love instead of this. I could see God instead of this. Because we're all one with this force, this power, and it's in you and it's operating through you, but many of us don't see it. We're lost. And if you go back to the prodigal son, you're born in the kingdom, but you forget who you are, and then you wake up. And as soon as you wake up, there's a restoration to something you've always been. And the thing about the universe, it's always attempting to get you back to that place. And as you get there, suddenly a vast new world of beauty appears, and it opens up within you in such a way that you will reflect that beauty in your own life. You'll begin to make things around you beautiful, because you have the power to do so. It's like some people, they're working their jobs, but when no one's around, they don't do their jobs well. So they might be thinking, I don't have to do anything, the boss is not here. Instead of recognizing it's not about whether the boss is here or the boss isn't here. It's what, it's about you, what you contribute. Whatever you're working on ought to be worthy of you. You put all of yourself into your endeavors. In the same sense, when you're committed to seeing beauty, you create the beauty around you, whether anyone has seen it or not, because you can. You are expressing it, and as you do, it's natural. You, we are individualizations of this God life, and it's very natural once we wake up to it. And you want to express more of it. And this is true not only in the things you have around you, but in the way you relate to each other, and the way you relate in a caring way to life itself and to people. Now, you can take a number of these qualities and see how you can practice them each day. I remember from Benjamin Franklin, I wasn't alive when he was here, but I certainly remember what he taught in his, he had a self-help book, and the 13 virtues. Assume a virtue if you have it not, and practice it. He had a whole board where he checked them off. Eventually, if you start practicing these virtues, they become a part of you. So you can take these qualities and you can practice them, and they really become a part of you. Ernest Holmes also says, an actual realization of the presence of God is the most powerful healing agency known to us. So you have the ability to really wake up to realize, I have this thing within me. Yeah, who me, with all my sins? Yeah, I have it within me. And it's truly transformative once you awaken to you have that power within you. And it's always trying to get your attention. If you wake up to that, then things start really happening. You start to realize you are in the flow of being. You're in the presence of it. It's part of you. You're in the place of awe and calm and peace. So nothing really can disturb you when you're in that place. Your mind is full of peace. The comings and goings of life will always be doing that. They will be coming and going. But there is a point in you that's not disturbed by anything. You're centered in God awareness, and the whole world could be doing its thing, and you can turn on all the news stations, and nothing's going to touch you because you're established in that place. You're about what we used to call your Father's business. You're not interested in the garbage. You're not interested in the gossip. You're not interested in any of that stuff. I know when I'm around those people, by the way. They just won't go there. They have no interest in it. I'm not there yet, but I know, I work towards it, because it used to be I'd be reacting to everything that came across my plate, and more as time goes by, you let people spin because people will spin. You don't have to spin. You can be centered in a different place. As we're getting involved in all of this, we're beginning to do our work in life with a sense of knowing, it's a sense we're knowing we're about a healing process, and we become more and more open to our own evolution. Even with biology, when you're at peace, when you're happy, your cells themselves are happy and they're at peace. It promotes healing within your own body, and your cells will help all the other cells to become whole, perfect, and complete. So let's move on to our second point, which is you are an individual in relationship to the whole. All of life is a relational thing. See, we used to think me against the world. You've heard that type of thinking before. There's no such thing as you against the world. You are in the world, a part of the world. You can't be separate from it, even if you wanted to. So there's no just individual floating around in life as he or she is not dependent upon anything. Everybody is interconnected, interdependent. And what happens is that some of us get in our minds so powerful and all, and we become isolated, and we believe that we are the whole thing and that we don't need anything. And when we are connected, when we are in fact connected to everyone and everything. So imagine just saying, any day you get up, look around, anything you use when you get up in the morning, it's your alarm clock, it's whatever, you turn on your light bulb, you just start your morning. You didn't make any of this stuff yourself. You didn't make the sheets that are on top of you. You didn't make anything. You didn't make your car or the train you came in on or whatever. You didn't make the energy that moves them or the water that came through your faucet this morning. You didn't do any of that stuff. All that stuff's been done by others. And we are related in every single way to everyone else. And yet we don't take any of it seriously. We take all of it for granted. So there is this whole, not only is the physical world telling you that we're related to everything, but the spiritual world itself is all interconnected. And we don't see it in the sense of the soul. And when we don't see it that way, how we're interconnected, we come up with all these ideas. We create divisions. We'll look at people, we'll create ideas of this group's different than me, that other groups are different than other groups. So we have things like, racial ideas come in, prejudice comes in. We come up with all kinds of crazy things because we forget we're not living in awareness that we're all interconnected. we come up with a lot of nonsense because we're spiritually still in either separation, or we haven't yet evolved to the point where we understand that we're all part of each other. Some spiritual teachers have said we're spiritually ignorant. A few say that we're spiritually stupid, which is not such a nice thing to say. But the point is, we're lacking awareness. We're lacking awareness of our own value and the value of others. And we're not coming from a very high place. There's a lot of people who come into our teaching in New Thought, and they say that I'm a New Thought student, and yet they attack each other all the time. So, I mean, they are really students. They're just beginning to learn. Because if you're really practicing this teaching, you really don't have anything negative to say about anybody. You know, the peace of God is my one goal. End story. I'm not here to judge you. And you can judge me all you want because that's where you are. But the thing is, we're really here to extend love to one another, and we understand that people are unfolding wherever they are. And last week we spoke about forgiveness and the notion that Jesus was saying, forgive 70 times 7. Well, what he was getting at is unconditionally, endlessly forgive, because you understand that people are exactly where they are, all over the world, unfolding wherever they are, and they're all part of this evolution, and you are too. And how can we think of ourselves as being better or worse than anyone, really? You want to take credit for it? We were grown up in different families, and we've evolved, and we've done the best we could, and the changes we've made is because we've been inspired to, or because we've been in situations where we've had to grow. Do I want to take credit for that personally? I don't think so. We've come out of lots of different religious and spiritual traditions, but every one that I can think of all teach that we are part of the divine, or we're offsprings of it. Everyone is. I believe Jesus said in his prayer, "Our Father," and he wasn't referring to the Jewish Father, Jewish people. He wasn't referring to the father of Islam or Buddhism or anything else. He's talking about our Father. He was referring to our Father, the Father of all of us, everywhere. Many of us might say that we're Christian from this part of the world. People calling themselves Christian, or you call yourself any other thing, it's because, you came out of that particular tradition or that part of the globe. But very few practice the principles of any of these religions. It was Dr. Holmes years ago who said there's nothing really wrong with Christianity. He said, except it isn't practiced very much anywhere. In the end, a lot of people do what they want, and they tell everybody else, okay, they're going to act, okay, I'm of whatever faith I am, and then they wind up telling everybody else that they're wrong. So, there's a lot of you're right and I'm wrong stuff. And so Holmes and Chang and all these teachers that I would say, come on, wake up, snap out of all that stuff. We need to understand more. We need to wake up from that and realize that's not the way it is. There is one source that we live in, one energy. You can call it the Father, the Mother, you can call it really whatever you want, but this one thing is universal. So in this relationship we have, we must understand that as vast as the universe is, and as minuscule as we are on the earth itself is like a grain of sand in the universe itself. That's how big it is. It can't even be seen. If we begin to realize that we're only here because the rest of the universe is here, that said, we begin to feel a whole different way as we relate to things. We come with a sense of awe and wonder and gratitude and thanksgiving because we say, oh my God, how did I even manage to develop this mind? And here I am in this culture that can do all these fantastic things. And once we start seeing the absolute miraculousness of it all, our life changes. Everything starts to change. As we begin to see how we are related to everything, how we are in a relationship with everyone, the whole purpose of the relationship is for us to move into an awareness of becoming. All of you are becoming something. You're becoming more every single day. Every single new moment of the universe comes into being, and then it stops, it perishes. So, new moments. The whole universe comes alive in a new moment, and the next moment it ends, and it becomes more. It's always coming into being, and then it's perishing. Quantum science is telling us that. I'm not certainly smart enough to make that up. And what I'm saying to you is that each moment is a moment of becoming. Each moment is one of living and forgiving and enjoying. And so whatever has gone into the previous moments, you don't want to live there, I promise you. You don't want to live in what happened 2 years ago. You don't want to live in what happened with other people, and you don't want to carry those stories forward. So the whole goal is to be in new moments. So when you make mistakes, that's fine. Learn from them and keep on keeping on. And when you begin to see that everyone is in that kind of mode, everyone's in the mode of becoming, evolving and becoming more, then we don't give up on each other so quickly. Because we know, like us, they're evolving. We know that we can keep striving towards being the best version of ourselves that we have been, and we will do more. And why? Because we need to share who we are with each other. Now we're looking at this journey of becoming, and in this journey of becoming, we must see no limits to ourselves. We must recognize that we are people in the business of relating to one another and learning from one another to know what's the best to become. And then we make choices because we have the power, not just to become whatever we have already been. We have the power to do more and be more. And as we're thinking about anything, we're making choices. So, my friends, these are two things that we really need to understand. We must understand that we can be happy when we are in the process of becoming. We can be happy when we, again, are in the process of becoming and recognize that happiness is not a goal. Happiness can be thought of more as a value. A goal is something you strive for that you have set forth, and I'm going to do this in the next 6 months, and you have an idea, when you're going to do it and how you're going to do it. A value is not something that is to be achieved in the future. A value is something you can take on. You can take on happiness right here today as a value. It's part of being. You could start your day over today. You can do it again and again. Barker would say yesterday ended last night, but really more importantly, you could start your day over again and again. You could take on happiness. If you want to be happy, take it on. Take on the spirit of happiness. And then use it, affirm it. Like Franklin, assume this virtue, right? Whether everybody knows our areas where we don't operate at our best. So take on whatever that area is and do the opposite. Happiness is a great one. Take on the spirit of happiness and then use it, affirm it on your journey forward to the goals that you're trying to achieve. When you're moving in this direction, one of the things you have working for you then is imagination. Your imagination is, think of it as a spiritual download from the source itself to you, because this divine intelligence has centered it in you. Remember, we started out with the idea of this source, this God being omnipresent. It is. If it is, and it's inside of you, and the God that's inside of you, by the way, can't be any less than the God that was in Jesus or Buddha or anywhere else, the God that was in Socrates. So what makes the difference? It's how you are able to receive that which you are. And so as you're coming into greater awareness and alignment with it, it changes everything. It makes life better. So that's why Einstein said, imagination is greater than knowledge. Knowledge is already the area, you already have that, right? The example was if you walk into a dark forest and you have a flashlight. Knowledge is like that. The light is shining only on a little tiny piece of the forest. But with your imagination, it can allow you to move to the entire dimension of the forest and to know more through imagination about where you ought to go and how you're going to be there. And you're somewhat divinely led and guided. So never limit your experience. You know, Emerson used to say, hitch your wagon to the stars. Never limit your experience. Dr. Holmes, Ernest Holmes, said, we are born to be happy, to be abundantly supplied with every good thing, and to have fun while you're living, to consciously unite with this power that you have that's in you and around you, so you can grow and expand forever. Do you believe that you can grow and expand forever? I don't think most people do, really. But this is what we teach. You can. And you will if you put a demand on consciousness. You have power to, really ignite your life. So, dreaming big and having a great imagination, is that hard for you to do? Think about yourself as expanding. And as you expand, you become better than you have ever been before. And so these are two of the things that we talk about in the science of mind. So I'm trying to break down the science of mind and make it fun and easy today, because it can be. And in a moment, we'll talk about some of the others. My third point is thought and feeling are the keys to creative power. Here's what Ernest Holmes said. He says, all the power of the universe is with you. So if you can slow down, take a pause, and allow yourself to feel that and know it's there. Now, one of the things that you might question is, how can all the power of the universe be with me and in me? Look at my life, right? And here's the way to understand it. It's relational. If you look, say, examples, at Jesus' examples, for example, you could see, as he says, don't you believe that I'm in the Father, and the Father is in me? What I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me doing the work. See, that's the key. Spirit is in you, operating through you, doing the work. Jesus did not say, you can just wave your hand and move an entire universe, right? What he exemplified is that he could move the universe of his life and help the people around him. And that's all the power you really need. We don't need people who can move mountains. Can you imagine what kind of chaos would be if everybody could twitch their nose like Samantha and just like, chink, the whole new, it doesn't work that way. But the idea is to know that the power that you are speaking about is not your power. It's something that you're plugging into, or you're inviting into your awareness. It is the power of spirit. It's the power of, we'll say, God within. And so your meditation, your contemplation is on that kind of power. And when you look at the world, what we're looking at is the idea that you can achieve the goals of your life. That's really where your world is. In the circumference of these ideas that you want to put out there to express that spirit that's within you, to make a difference in this life. This is really where you need the power. You may need it for health, you may need it for companionship, you may need it in different areas of your life. And isn't that world enough for you if you have it in these areas? We can only handle so much in life, and that's what you need power for. So when we say all the power in the universe is within you, all the power of your world, as Genesis said, that you should have dominion over the world. But it's not the world in terms of you're looking at earth and telling everybody else what to do. We don't like people who do that generally, do we? No. So the idea is to know that you are responsible for your own life, and responsible means you're responsible to go from what is limiting you to what will open the doors of opportunities and infinite possibilities for you in achieving what your life is about. Now, when we look at another quote by Ernest Holmes, he says, we have within us a power that's greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer. We have a power within us that's greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer, a power that can overcome every obstacle in life and set us safe. And it'll make us satisfied and at peace and prosperous, and to give us new life and a new light in this life that we're living. So what is that you want from it? We're looking at this power that is greater, again, than we are. That's the first thing that we need to know. The power is always greater than the problem that you have. It comes back to that wonderful quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson when he said, "What is within you, what is before you, and what is behind you are tiny matters compared to what is within you." Why do all these people say these things, these great people? They don't say them because they're egotistical, and what they're trying to say is, this is who I am. They say because they have discovered who they are in relation to it. The we, the big we, we're all interconnected. We're more of a we than we are an I or a me. And once we begin to stretch ourselves to understand this consciousness of we, it's so much easier to love people. It's so much easier to forgive people. It's so much easier to find solutions for what seems like impossible problems. And that's the consciousness that we wish to have, an awakened consciousness where we realize that we're interconnected with all of life. And that's the consciousness that we call God consciousness. God is not about you versus another person. It could never be that way. God is about all of us. And well, so as we're talking about the science of mind and thoughts that we live by in our teaching, again, it's just to remind you that what we're trying to do is give you some of these wonderful thoughts that you can apply without becoming technically adept using the textbook and all of its, the concordance, all that. It's all very simple. Everybody can apply it. So the next point I want to talk about is good attitude is the consciousness of having positive expectancy. Whenever I've had a sense of positive expectancy, things are exciting in my life, without exception. When I just am all excited and I just know it's going to work out, something happens. Things become magnetic to what it is that you're attracting. Here's what Ernest Holmes says of it. He says, expectancy speeds progress. Therefore, live, if you can, in a continual state of positive expectancy. Like Edwina Gaines used to say, she sees the good in the good in the God. It doesn't matter what the heck is going on. She has positive expectancy. No matter how much good you are experiencing today, expect greater good tomorrow. Expect to meet new friends. Expect to have wonderful experiences. You might say, oh my God, everything's happened in my life. Just drop all that as quickly as you find yourself in it and just say, no matter how much good I've experienced today or whatever's happened, I'm going to expect greater good tomorrow. So this is the magic of positive expectancy. And you'll soon discover a dramatic side of your life because it'll bring forth all kinds of constructive things and feelings. So expectancy is the way that you magnetize the good much more forcefully than if you're just kind of like blasé about your life. Oh, we'll see what happens. God knows, and someday my ship will come in, all that stuff. If you say, I don't know, you keep on saying, I don't know, and I don't believe anything good can happen to me because, boy, you're doing a number on yourself if you're doing that stuff. Because you can bet not very much good is going to happen or come your way, because your attitude determines your altitude. If you're done there, which you start telling yourself it's over for me, it's too late, baby, then what do you expect you're going to see in your life? So you want to rise up in consciousness, right, and have that sense of expectancy. And when you do that, so when you're looking at tomorrow, you're going to be looking at tomorrow with it. And if it's with a sense that, gee, whatever I'm doing today, which is great, I can't wait to see what tomorrow is going to bring, right? And as you get that bounce, because you will have a bounce if you keep on developing that consciousness, it'll be like, I can't wait to see what's going to happen tomorrow. How many of you have done that recently? How many of you are living with that? If you could stir that up, watch everything start to change, right? So many of us have been shut down. We've been through COVID. We've been through a lot. And, you know, somehow we've got to find a way to bounce out of that, right? We want to step up our game a bit so we can be coming back with a force. And we're unstoppable, because you really are. You have the power to step it up and step out of any of the things that you've been living through. You can bring that force, you can bring that healing force, that excitement to bear upon your life and your future. So we need to understand, Jesus gave us a little hint when he said that whoever believes in me and the work that I do and have been doing, and they will do it, if you do this, then greater things, he said, greater things they will do. Because I'm going to the Spirit here within. In case you missed the point, I'll give you the hint, I'll break it down more. The hint is that Jesus is going to the Father. The idea, as Jesus sees himself going to the Father, you must see yourself going to the source within you, which is God. Jesus calls it the Father because in those days that's the way they spoke. It was a relational thing. And if you think about relation, some people maybe didn't have a great relationship with their father or their mother. It's more about the idea. In our case, going to the Father is the relationship that we have with Source, a source that we believe in that's working for us. And when you do that, the sense of expectancy changes everything. So we want to go on to the fifth point for today. We're talking about changing habitual thoughts. This we talk of all the time here. And changing from fear to faith. Here's what Dr. Holmes says. He says, in order to get the most out of life, we must learn consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. And that's not easy for most people, because we have these, like in the 4 agreements, we have all this stuff that's been accumulated for years, but we really must challenge those old thought patterns that cling to us. But being thought patterns, they can definitely be challenged, and they can be neutralized, and they can be reversed. We must understand what our thought patterns are, and we must know the ones that really get in the way of relationship, get in the way of our success. Dr. Chang told a story. He said, I know a woman who took care of a man. He wanted to marry her. They were both older people, but she had said she'd lost her husband a while years ago, and somebody she was married to, and she didn't think she wanted to get married again. And she was taking care of this older gentleman, and they were very close, and he was dying. And he says, I want to leave my house to you. And because of this old idea that she had, she says, I don't want people to think that I was just helping you because I wanted something from you. And when it came, this was a time where she had an opportunity for herself, she denied it. And the man passed away, and he left his house to another person who he barely knew who was helping him. The point here is that this lady, the first lady, had a habitual thought of how she must look to people, where she could not recognize things have changed for her. And this was a chance for her to be given something that was open and free and a loving gift. And this person really wanted to help her because she was so good to him. She was looking at this from the point of view of her pride or her habitual thinking that, no, I can't accept this because people will think this or that. So we all got a lot of that stuff going on. And so we ask for opportunities. And opportunities are presented to us all the time. So we have to come to a place where we realize this is not the way life works. When life presents you with an opportunity, say yes to it. Say yes, thank you, universe. Thank you, God, I'm here. I'm going to accept it. So let's have positive expectancy, Because if you do so, life will start to work for you. Let me get to the point that talks about fear, changing fear to faith. The idea is to realize that fear can be replaced always by faith. If you wrote down all the things that you fear, and you wrote down all the things that you should do, opposite to fear on the other side of a ledger, and then you begin to say, this is what I ought to do, and this is what I'm doing. And if you were to take a month to monitor yourself and see just how you're going through this and how you can replace your fear with faith. So if you're saying, I know, or if you're saying, I fear walking out the street, and you begin to say, God is my guide and protector. I can walk bravely and courageously on the street, or whatever the fear is. And then you go out in the street and you come back and you realize nothing happened to you. Then all of a sudden you begin this transition from fear to faith. And you can do this with lack and limitation. You can do this with health. You can begin to say, instead of saying, every day I have such little energy, you can say, today I have enough energy to begin to be bolder, to be more energetic, to be more of who I am. And what is going to happen? You step out, you start getting a little more exercise. Your muscles start to get stronger. And before you know it, you're breathing better. The sunshine's giving you vitamin D, and you're feeling good. You're feeling better about yourself. And that's what we do. But we got to write it down and know what the things are that we're trying to get rid of. We talk a lot here about doing spiritual inventories. Just look, this is the stuff that works for me, and this is the stuff that doesn't work for me. I want to let go of the things that really are not life-giving, and I want to focus on the things that we can. We want to assume the virtues that we don't have. We want to practice them. I hope you realize that Ernest Holmes said, life is not just something to be endured. He said it's to be lived with great joy and fullness without limits. Can you see yourself as a person living your life with joy and without limits? Are you willing to let go of all that stuff? That takes some work, but you can do it. The more you stay plugged into what we do on Thursday nights in particular, we're always looking at the stuff that's in the way so we can release it. Just staying plugged in to this conversation will help you. Are you merely enduring? Like, this is the best I can do? Come on now. Breathe deeply and say, I'm going to do better. And I think we can feel it. I think most of you know that you have this power. And because you're going to go to the Father, because you're going to go into the presence of the power that's within you. We're not living choiceless lives, by the way, because every day, every moment, things are changing. And therefore, our thoughts are making selections all the time. And you're capable of doing far more than you've ever known. My final point here is prayer and action are sisters or brothers. I want you to begin to see that you live in a universe where you can pray to God for certain things. And you must understand that this obligates you to do your part. It's a partnership. We're living in a participating universe. Remember, I started out by saying this is an interrelated universe, a relational universe. It's not just God being a butler, right? Or somebody out there, with a scorecard. It's you. God is doing things through you with your own consciousness, right? God is doing things through you, for you, as you. So here's what Ernest Holmes says to that. He says, seek to make your work a prayer. If you're believing an act, if you're living that way, you're living like art. And then the object of your faith will be made visible to you. He says, then you shall kiss the lips of your desire. Does this thing I wish to express more, does this thing in me wish to express more life, more happiness, more peace, and at the same time harm no one? If it does, it's right, and it's good, it's very good. So what we're saying here is, as we look at the science of mind, thoughts to live by, it's a very freeing moment. It's a freeing teaching. You don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of all the technicalities and all the books that delve into the theological thoughts and systems behind it. The only thing you have to do is come to life with a more positive way each and every day and challenge yourself to be more positive and realize that there's something back of your thought and something back of your action. And if you can have greater thought and back it up with greater action, you'll find a world that you can live in and you will enjoy your happiness for a long, long time.